What you're about to watch is one of my most successful series that I have ever done on this channel. That being the topic of rare Switch games. Rare Switch games have been something that everyone has been asking me to do since I want to say 2020 with this YouTube channel. I obviously own so many Nintendo Switch games, and I guess people wanted me to speculate what I thought would end up being rare for the Nintendo Switch, since the Switch is such a unique console to collect for when it comes to physical media, due to cartridges being such a difficult thing to produce, let alone very expensive. And because of that, so many things went out of print so fast, games that should have never gone out of print on any other console. And you guys love this series to death. In fact, I think it's my most popular video of all time. So I kept doing it and y'all still enjoyed it so much. So what I thought would be cool is to put the first 5 videos into one giant video talking about 50 rare Switch games and seeing how I was right and how I was wrong on some of this stuff, or if things just maintained. As I've said many times with this series, this is just us speculating what could end up being rare. I could be wrong, but I think a majority of the series I ended up being correct. I also know that each time I do one of these videos, a lot of people haven't seen the previous parts. So I just thought, hey, let's do the first 5 into one video. That way people get a nice idea of what this was. It's interesting to see how this has become so big, a series that I started in 2023 and still going strong into 2025, maybe beyond that. So without further ado, sit back and enjoy the show.
Hey, what's going on everyone? MonadoMax here, and today we're going to be doing a video of talking about 10 Nintendo Switch games that is either already somewhat expensive or getting expensive, and games that I think that are going to be very expensive for the Nintendo Switch or just very rare for the Switch. Every year I do a Nintendo Switch game collection video, and I always talk about games that I think that are going to end up being rare, and a lot of you guys in the comments of that video always seem to be interested in me talking about that. So we have some games that I want to talk about here, and this could potentially be a video series if you guys want to continue seeing this. Because I feel like I'm very well knowledge with the Nintendo Switch, considering I have over 400 Nintendo Switch games. I think I'm kind of the perfect person to talk about. Maybe perfect's not the right word to use because no one's perfect, but I think I'm a knowledgeable person to talk about what I think is going to be expensive Nintendo Switch games. The Nintendo Switch is such an interesting console to collect for, just due to the fact that it uses cartridges. And another reason why the Switch is very interesting to collect for is a lot of the times when games are put onto the Switch, it is a one print only, meaning they don't print anymore after the game is sold out. So there's going to be a lot of Switch games that are going to be very expensive once we get later and later down the Switch road. So games that are actually already pretty expensive because they're out of print. Because with how it is to print cartridges on the Switch, it's more expensive than an actual disc version of the game. So that means the collecting side of the Switch makes this all very interesting. Let's go ahead and get into this list of games. I have no particular order, I'm just bringing 10 games onto here to talk about that I think will end up being expensive for the Switch down the road. Alright, I want to start off with the Batman Telltale series. This is one that I'm always telling people to definitely be on the lookout for, especially considering Minecraft Story Mode. That is one that I've actually been telling people to look out for even before it went up like crazy, mainly due to the reason that with this game and the Minecraft game, the first season, you can actually play this whole game on the cartridge. This is the only way to get the game fully on cartridge without download, because even the discs only have the first episode. You have to download the rest. And at one point, they lost the rights to this because Telltale Games went out of business. And who knows, Telltale might go out of business again. I hope not, but we really don't know. This is somewhat of a cheap game to be found right now on the Nintendo Switch physical side. I think it had an extremely low print run though, because you can't buy it new anymore. It's definitely out of print. You can only buy it pre-owned, and it goes for about $30 to $40. I think this is one that towards the end of the Switch cycle, this will be one that people are going to be looking out for, especially those that actually want to play this game, because I think they just now started having this on the other consoles, re-adding it to the PlayStation Store and Xbox Store. And I think the Switch version, with it coming out so late into Telltale Games' cycle, this was just kind of a weird release. I think there's possibility that this could be an expensive Switch game down the road. So this is one that I think you guys should be on the lookout for. Okay, coming in, we got Life is Strange Collection. This is a really weird release, only due to the fact that, so the Switch version came out way later than the PS5 and Xbox Series X versions of the Life is Strange collection. This is the remastered collection. Those did not get physical copies. The Switch is the only version that got a physical release. And it kind of got shadow dropped, kind of. I'm saying kind of. It got announced like 3 weeks before that it was coming out physically on the Switch and digitally onto the Switch. This is one that you can still find right now because it is a newer release. But I think just due to the fact that this is the only physical copy of Life is Strange Remastered Collection, I think down the road this is going to be one that people are really going to want, since you can't get a physical copy of it on PlayStation and Xbox. You can obviously get the re-released old, like the original versions of Life is Strange, but the only way to get a remastered version of it is on the Switch. And it has the whole Life is Strange 1 game on cartridge, which is pretty cool. The Beyond the Storm, or whatever that one's called, is download only, but you got the first game on cartridge, and I think that's something people are going to want down the road. I think you can find this game for about $30 right now. I think this is one that's going to go up in value down the road, because it's not out of print yet. It's going to be out of print though, I'm telling you. Especially since it's Square Enix. A lot of the Switch Square Enix games have actually been out of print already. This is one to be looking out for. Okay, this is the one that I think has the weirdest story behind it, especially the American version of this game. We're going to be talking about Unravel 2. Now, this game came out on the Switch very early in the Switch lifecycle. I think it was like 2018 is when this game came out. Didn't get a physical copy. It got a physical copy in the UK, but it never got a physical copy in America. For whatever reason, this is the weirdest thing to me. Last year, a random shadow drop happened of Unravel 2 coming to the Switch physical. This had already been out on the Switch for years. No one was talking about it. No one was really asking for a physical copy in America. This came out of nowhere. No announcement from EA, no nothing. It just showed up in stores out of nowhere. That type of storyline tells me that eventually at some point, it's a $20 game right now. It's a $20 game, but I'm telling you, this probably didn't get many copies printed. And even if it did, the story is too weird to me. I'm telling you, this is going to be an expensive Switch game down the road. Get this while you can, while it is still $20. It's not out of print yet, because like I said, it had just came out not even a year ago. The story behind Unravel 2 getting a physical copy in America is the strangest thing to me. If you guys know anything about that, please let me know in the comments down below. Next up, we got Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition. Now, this is one that's also an interesting story. This is the only way to have the 3DS, Wii U, DLC, all of that. The Switch version is the only one that has all that in HD. Which is very interesting. It's all on one cartridge. It's got everything from the Wii U, 3DS, all into one version, the Switch version here. This game is actually already out of print. It's already still a $60 game if you can find it in stores. It has never dropped down because it went out of print. It is $60 pre-owned at GameStop. That tells you something. That it's not $55 pre-owned. It's the $60 pre-owned price tag. So if you can find this out and about, this is one to definitely pick up, because it's a first-party Nintendo game, it's a Zelda game. Once we get to the next Nintendo console, people are going to be going crazy over the first-party Switch games. They're going to start collecting for that. Hyrule Warriors is one of those. And this actually already went out of print before Age of Calamity was even announced and dropped onto the Switch. So I think this is one that is actually going to be harder to get. Maybe not necessarily super expensive. It's just going to be harder to find, I think. Because I don't even think many copies of this was produced, because from my understanding, the Switch port did not sell well. Because one, it came out of nowhere. It was in the middle of a lot of games coming out for the Switch with no promotion. It was a weird release that should have had a better promotion, because this is something that, this is good value right here. getting as much as content that you get into this game, it's incredible. So definitely be looking out for this one if you can find it for cheap. This one, I'm kind of going out on a wild card. Just hear me out before you judge. We got the GTA Trilogy Collection right now for the Nintendo Switch. This also got a weird release because one, the Switch version came out months after the PlayStation and Xbox versions came out. I don't even think digitally it came, actually, I think digitally it released, but the physical copy got like a 4-month delay. This is what was told to me by a source that I can no longer find anymore. The dude has been wiped out of the existence. I don't know if the Nintendo ninjas found him or something, but I had a source at one point that told me some Nintendo stuff that 95% of the time ended up being correct. What he told me is that Rockstar Games wanted to put more games onto the Switch, but the whole cartridge thing is what stopped them. They lost so much money on the LA Noire Switch port because it was a cartridge-based system that the physical release did not make them much money. That's why they did not release many Switch games. They apparently had GTA 5 ready for Switch, but they scrapped it because of LA Noire not selling well, and on top of that being a cartridge-based system, they just scrapped it completely. I'm kind of believing that just due to the fact that we have seen no Rockstar games since LA Noire, and the fact that they took forever to get GTA Collection out on the Switch physically on the smallest cartridge size possible, because they did terrible with the physical release, just gonna be honest here. I think that, I believe that rumor, and I think this probably didn't get many copies produced because, you know, the collection came out on PS4, Switch, digitally, all that. The reviews were terrible. This came out actually, it's been a year since this has dropped onto the Nintendo Switch, and it still remains $60. You could sometimes find it for $40. I think this is going to be one that it's not going to be expensive to get for the Switch yet, but I think down the road this could be a $80 to $90 game. It's got such a weird story, and with that potential thing of Rockstar Games not liking the Switch due to the cartridge stuff, I think LA Noire could potentially be a rare Switch game due to all of that. If my source was correct, which again, I'm believing it just due to everything we've seen so far, because I was told that before GTA Trilogy was announced for the Switch. I think the fact that the Switch version got delayed, and then the fact that the cartridge does not have much, it's like the smallest cartridge ever in terms of data storage, I believe it. I believe it. And especially since the physical release took forever, it just adds up. I think down the road, I don't think this is going to be an immediate thing. This is one to look out for, possible. If you can get it for cheap, I think it's worth it in your collection. All right, next up, I have Doom 2016 for the Nintendo Switch. Now, this version that I'm holding is actually already out of print. I am seeing this particular version when I'm at conventions and stuff. I'm seeing this version for $50 to $60. You can get Doom 2016 physically on the Switch still, but it's in a new type of print version of the game. Coleman might show pictures. It's like the Doom Slayers collection for Nintendo Switch. It comes with all the old Doom games, I believe digitally, and it comes with like a new cartridge of Doom, I think. I don't know exactly. I know it's not this right here, Doom 2016. It's on a new cartridge, the one that the Doom Slayers collection. So the original release of this game is going to be up there in value. It's still a $60 release if you can find this original copy of the game. I think, again, once we get towards the next Nintendo console, this is going to be one that people are looking out for. I think, especially as people are starting to get into Switch collecting, we're starting to see that Switch people starting to grow and grow when it comes to Switch collecting. This is one people are going to be looking out for due to the fact that it has a second release, and this first print release is done. It's a unique release. So if you can find this for cheap, like my local GameStop got this traded in. They're selling it for 15 bucks. I'm like, wow, that is a steal right now. So if you can find this for cheap, look out for it, because some stores don't know what they're selling when it comes to the Switch. And this is going to be one that retail stores are not going to really know what they're selling, just due to the fact that Doom Slayers collection exists, and it's a weird Switch physical copy. Next up, we have an extremely weird one that I don't even know much about. Go Vacation. I know this is a Wii game that for some reason Nintendo decided to fund the physical copy. I don't even know if this is a Nintendo IP or not, but Nintendo brought this to the Switch. They even published it for some reason, and I know a lot of people are talking about this game. They don't even know what it is, and I think this is one that is going to go up in value. I paid $30 for it. I think I'm seeing it go for like 50 to 60 now. And especially as Switch collecting grows, this is going to be one that, like, when people collect first-party Nintendo games, because that's going to be the main thing people are collecting for once people get into the Switch collection whole thing once the next Nintendo console comes out. Because I think that's when the Switch collections are going to grow. That's when Switch collecting is going to be very, very, very popular. It's when the next Nintendo game console comes out. And this is going to be one that people are going to go for because Nintendo themselves published it. There's many other games out there that Nintendo published that if we do another video like this, we'll talk about. But this is one that I think you guys should really look for because it's not that expensive yet. Alright, this next one, it just got announced that this just got out of print. So this is a new one that you can still get for relatively cheap. And it's a game that has not even been out for a year yet. That is Danganronpa. Obviously, it's an anime game, so all that anime stuff is going to be extremely popular for the Switch, especially physical copies. If you look at other consoles out there, all the anime stuff is always what goes crazy for game collecting. So this one, you can actually, it's still about a $40 to $50 game. I'm telling you, this is one that's going to be over $100. So while you can still get it, buy it because it's still relatively very cheap. And this is one that I feel very confident in saying this is going to be a very expensive game. People are starting to want this. You can't find it in game stores very often right now. It is an extremely hard game to find, but you can find it online. Buy it while you can. I'm telling you, this is one to look out for. Get it while you can still get it at retail price. Can't even get new copies of this yet. Like, you can buy sealed copies from like a reseller, but in terms of game stores, they don't have new versions of this anymore. Okay, so this one might be a little bit cheating in the competition that we're doing here of this video series because it is already an extremely expensive game, but I think this has the potential to be the most expensive Switch game due to the story that I'm about to tell you guys, which some of you might already know the story, but we'll talk about it momentarily. We're going to be talking about Skylanders Imaginators. Now, Coleman's probably going to show some sold listings of Skylanders Imaginators. It's already over $100. I know at one point this game was over $200. Now, you might be asking me, Max, why are you showing me this game if the game is already expensive? I thought this was supposed to be a video showing Switch games to buy before they get expensive. Yes and yes. I think Skylanders Imaginators is going to be the most expensive Switch game just due to the fact that, one, this came out on the Nintendo Switch day one when Skylanders was dead, like extremely dead, and the release, no one knew that Skylanders was on the Switch, which is crazy. Not to mention, it came at a time when Activision canceled every Skylanders games projects they had in development. You can look at the history. Back in 2016, it got leaked that Activision was canceling Skylander games because Skylanders Imaginators did not sell well at all on PlayStation or Xbox. So the fact that they brought this on Switch was extremely weird, especially considering putting games on Switch is very expensive, at least from a physical standpoint, due to the fact that the Switch uses cartridges. So this already has a very interesting run of, or a print run, and it's interesting that this is already for $100, especially if you can find this complete. This game is probably worth an unholy amount of money. Let's just leave it at that. I really think that this game is going to start going up and up, and I think right now it's gone down just a tiny bit. If you have the money and actually really care about collecting for the Switch, this is one that you want to try to get right now, because I'm telling you, this is going to be the most expensive Nintendo Switch title. The fact that it came out day one on the Switch too, I think most of that stuff's going to be expensive. It's got a unique storyline to it. This next one is also one that you can get very cheap, that I think that, again, it's going to stay this way until the next Nintendo console when people start wanting to collect the first party Nintendo games, because this is what we saw with the Wii U. The Wii U had all its first party games for cheap. People started collecting for the Wii U, so those games started going up like crazy. And like Game & Wario, over $100. Devil's Third, over $100. Ridiculous prices. I think this one is going to be pretty expensive because a lot of people don't even realize it has a physical release. That is Snipper Clippers Plus. This came out day one on the Nintendo Switch. It is a Nintendo IP that they dropped with the Nintendo Switch along with 1-2 Switch and Zelda Breath of the Wild. You can find that for $20 right now. At least that's how much I paid. Actually, I think it was more like $10. I'm telling you, I feel like that's gonna be like a $50 to $60 game. I don't think it's gonna be too expensive, but it's going to be worth more than the retail price of the game. And that is one that you guys should be looking out for just due to the history of it being one, released on the Switch day one. Two, many people don't realize it got a physical release. 3, it is a Nintendo IP with a Nintendo physical release that not many people realize. There's just so much that goes on with this game that you can add to the fact that it is going to be at least a rare Switch release. This is a Nintendo Switch, and this is a lot of Nintendo Switch games. A few months ago, I did a video talking about 10 Nintendo Switch games that I think you should buy before they become really rare / expensive. And that was a video that, you know, we were just speculating of what games could become rare or is very likely to become rare. And that video blew up. A lot of people really liked that video, which I wasn't expecting. I know people had asked me to do my opinions on certain Switch games, on if it's going to be rare or not, but never in a million years did I think it'd be one of the most performing videos on this channel. In fact, I get comments and DMs all the time where part 2 is. I've literally been in a Discord call, people have asked me, where's part 2? Been on my Instagram, I get an Instagram DM, where's part 2? I'm on my YouTube comments on videos that aren't even related to a top 10 video at all. People are asking for, where's part 2 of the Switch Rare Games video? Everywhere I go, I see people asking for this video. So we are back with part 2 of Nintendo Switch games you should buy before they become very rare. Now, I need to be careful what I say because apparently when we did this video, we had a lot of games go skyrocket in value according to my YouTube comments. So that I'm very surprised about. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be surprised. When you're a household name such as yourself, you know, my name holds a lot of value. So when I say something could become rare, you know, that must mean a lot to a lot of people since I'm the one saying it because, you know, household name, you know, MonadoMax, what can I say? This list is going to be purely speculated. I don't want anybody getting mad at me and be like, oh, where's this game? No. This game's not going to become rare because that's what this series is. It's us speculating what games could become rare. And I think I got a pretty good list for you guys if you're a Switch collector. I'm pretty proud of this list. So without further ado, let's start talking about some Switch games. This list is in no particular order, so if you see games in here, it's like, huh, that probably should have been higher. This is in no particular order because, like I said, this is purely us speculating. Coming in, number 10 is Astral Chain. Now, Astral Chain, I think, is going to be a IP that Nintendo is going to use a lot going further into the next Nintendo console. In fact, this was actually an IP that Nintendo didn't own before. This was a Platinum Games IP that Nintendo later on, for whatever reason, decided to buy the rights to getting the Astral Chain IP. So Nintendo owns this IP. Nintendo's clearly going to do more with it because they wouldn't have bought the IP. Now, you guys might be wondering, what does that have to do with the Switch version of Astral Chain? Well, this one is pretty much out of print. You know, we talked about it when Switch games go out of print. They very rarely will get a second print because Switch games are expensive to print. They're the most expensive things to print out of any gaming media out there right now because it uses cartridges. So a lot of times when Switch games go out of print, that's it, because they have to pre-order a lot. They have to make a lot at once. They can't do it like with PlayStation and Xbox where, you know, you can do a little bit. With Switch games, you have to make a lot at once. Astral Chain is a game that is definitely already out of print. You won't find this in stores anywhere sealed. You'll find it pre-owned in places. The game isn't super expensive yet, but I think this is going to be one of those games, once Nintendo uses more with the IP, people are going to really want to play this game. The game didn't do like crazy numbers on Switch, so it's kind of like a hidden gem for the Nintendo Switch. And especially whenever that sequel comes out, people are going to want to play the original, and especially when the Switch collecting phase starts getting really big, because I would like to say the Switch collecting scene is still pretty small right now. It's going to become huge when the Switch actually ends and people realize how special the Switch is for a game collecting. This is one to be on the lookout for. Coming in number 9 is Dragon Quest Builders. Now, a lot of you might have expected me to put Dragon Quest Builders 2 on this list, and while I do think that is a game that's going to be valuable for the Nintendo Switch down the road, Dragon Quest Builders 1 is kind of a weird release. It kind of just randomly came out on Nintendo Switch, unexpectedly with a physical copy on the way. The reason why it was weird is we knew Dragon Quest Builders 2 was on the way, so it was kind of weird for them to bring out Dragon Quest Builders 1 on the Switch. This game has always been about a $50 to $60 game. Sometimes you can find it even lower, but this game is more expensive than the actual Dragon Quest Builders 2 game. This one's kind of a harder game to find because it was one that not really many people was asking for since we knew 2 was on the way, and was a really weird Switch release. What's even weirder about a lot of these Square Enix Nintendo titles that have come out on Switch is a lot of them have been published by Nintendo themselves, which I think is super weird because, I mean, Square Enix publishes a lot of games. I don't know why they didn't want to publish a lot of Switch games. It was very weird, and I think this is one to definitely be on the lookout for because it just has such a weird story behind it. Coming in number 8 is another weird story behind it. A lot of the things with Nintendo Switch games that you're going to see with these type of videos is they have weird stories behind the physical release behind it. And it gets even weirder with this one. Bayonetta on the Nintendo Switch. This just randomly, Nintendo was like, you know, on Twitter.com, they were like, you know what? We're happy to announce that a limited release of Bayonetta will be getting a physical release on Nintendo Switch. Now, if you guys don't know, in Japan, they already had Bayonetta 1 physically on the Switch. You had to buy this big collector's edition box. It was actually pretty cool, but that was the only way to get Bayonetta 1 physically on the Nintendo Switch. And we had a Bayonetta 1 physical copy on the Wii U, which is kind of weird, but if you bought Bayonetta 2, you got 2 discs. You got Bayonetta 1 and 2. When you bought Bayonetta 1 here in America, when it came out to the, or when Bayonetta 2 came out to the Nintendo Switch, they had Bayonetta 1, but it was a download code only. A lot of people was very upset about that since Japan had the physical, and if you go back to the Wii U, they had a physical of Bayonetta 1 on disc. It was super weird. Nintendo finally did a release of Bayonetta 1 on the Nintendo Switch, released it for $30. Problem is they said this was going to be a limited release. This would not be out for that long. And normally, Nintendo never says that. They never flat out say, hey, this is a limited release, this will be gone. Typically when they say that, they call it limited and then they actually never stop producing it. Kind of like 3D All-Stars. We saw that on Switch shelves for a very long time, way after we were supposed to see it. They actually meant it with Bayonetta, because after this, we didn't see this game on store shelves for a month. This was a true limited release. And the value of this game is not that high right now. I'm pretty sure the other day I saw it for $40 to $50. I think this is going to be an expensive Switch game down the road because, again, the weird story, and once people want to start collecting a first-party Nintendo Switch America set, they're going to have to get this since Nintendo published it. Coming in, number 7 is Jump Force on the Nintendo Switch. Now, this is one that I've already seen start to slowly skyrocket in value, or not skyrocket, it's going more than what it was sold for when it first came out. And the reason behind that is Jump Force has, again, another weird story behind it. Now, Jump Force has a lot of anime characters. It's an anime game. It uses licenses that the developers, Bandai Namco, do not have anymore. And the game was actually taken off store shelves and digital store shelves. So you can't find this game on the PlayStation eShop, or the Xbox store, the PlayStation store, all that type of stuff, it's gone. But the Switch version, the thing that makes the Switch version unique is it has, from my understanding, the DLC on cartridge. The whole game of Jump Force is on cartridge. So technically, if you want the complete Jump Force experience, if you didn't get a chance to buy the DLC on other consoles, the Switch version is the only version that you're going to be able to do that with. And the weird part about the Switch version is it came out, and then a few months they announced that they're discontinuing Jump Force on all platforms. So this came out late into the Jump Force cycle. That's what's going to make this a more valuable game, because it came out at a bad time, and it's going to be the most unique version of Jump Force out there if you want to play. I know people don't like this game, but if those who want to experience it with the DLC right now, Switch is the only way to really do that. And right now I'm seeing that go for like a $50 to $60 game, and this launched for $40. So keep that in mind when you're buying this. This is one that you definitely want to get a jump on, pun intended, for a Switch collector, because this is going to be an over $100 game soon. Okay, this one, I'm jumping the gun here. This could probably never be a rare Switch game. I just think it's weird it got a physical copy. That's the cool thing about Nintendo Switch game collecting, is a lot of the times with the Switch, it gets a lot of physical copies of games you don't expect, and other platforms sometimes don't get the physical release. And that's a similar situation right here, except the IP that it is, I just feel like with how this game is a meme, it could very well become something valuable because people are gonna make a meme behind it, like, oh, the physical copy, you gotta have it. That's Garfield Kart Furious Racing. This is not a valuable game right now. It's like a $20 game. I feel like if you do like a GameStop buy two get one free pre-owned games, I think you should add that to your list. I don't think you should go out of your way to buy this game unless you got like a cool promotion where you're getting a free game. I don't know, I have a feeling the storyline of Garfield Kart, how this game was not supposed to be successful in any way, how it was only supposed to be on 3DS, but somehow memes made it live longer to come out on Nintendo Switch and PC. I feel like with that storyline in mind, the fact that it even has a physical copy, I feel like in a few years from now, with all the memes surrounding Garfield Kart, I could see this being a rare Switch game. I don't know. Like I said, this is gonna be like the odd one out in the list. This one, I could be wrong. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I just think the storyline, it just makes sense for this to be a rare Switch game. I mean, I know Hello Kitty on the Wii U is one of the most expensive Wii U games. I think it got a reprint, but it was at one point one of the most expensive Wii U games, and you got Turbo. That's an expensive Wii U game. You never know. You never know. Okay, this is another weird Switch game. This happened about a few weeks after we filmed the first part of the top 10 games you should buy before they become rare series. I'm saying series because we're probably doing more because all you guys are going to keep DMing me about it. But what the weird thing is, if you guys don't know, there's 2K Drive on the Nintendo Switch and all other platforms. When this game came out to the Switch, Coleman's going to show an image. There is a version, the original version that came out that was sold for months, was not a true physical copy. It was basically this right here, but inside was no cartridge. It was a download code. People was not happy about that, so a lot of people didn't buy the Switch version because they wanted a true physical copy, because no one wants that. That's just a waste of plastic at that point. So we did not see that game get a good release on Switch. Then right around September, a shadow drop release happened. No official announcement, no nothing, that Lego 2K Drive would be coming to Nintendo Switch physically, like a true physical copy with a cartridge. It's showing up everywhere at all stores now. But again, the storyline behind it, there was no official announcement. It's kind of like Unravel 2, except the weird part is this had a physical copy, except it wasn't true physical. It was just a download code, and now it does have a cartridge. And now what gets even weirder is Lego's releasing another version of this game, Lego 2K Drive on Switch, is a download code inside. There's no Switch cartridge inside. It's got a different cover. I forgot what it's called. It might be like the Game of the Year edition with all the DLC. But the storyline of this game gets weirder and weirder. There's another edition that's not a true physical. So you can find this game in stores right now. Weird game. Weird to see the storyline where it's physical, not physical, digital, physical. I don't know. Very weird. That's why it's number 5 on this list. Listen, I feel like I'm a broken record at this point, but I have another Switch game on here that has a weird story behind it. Coming in number 4 is Tetris 99. A lot of you probably don't know that Tetris 99 actually has a Switch physical copy. Very weird to me considering this is a free game. And this was a $30 Switch game, by the way. Nintendo did everything in their power to make it worth your money, though, because inside of this comes with a 1-year Nintendo Switch Online membership. And inside is indeed, I think this Switch code's been used. I'm gonna flip it just in case. No, it's definitely, you know what? If it's not used, you guys get free Switch Online on me. There's a Tetris 99 cartridge inside of this physical copy. Now, this is already an out-of-print Switch game. You can't buy this anymore because of the fact that it came with a 1-year Nintendo Switch Online membership code. They never sold it ever again after the first print run. But what's weird about this is a free game getting a physical copy, but what gets even weirder is the physical copy cartridge of this game comes with the DLC of Tetris 99. What? How? This is so weird. I don't know. This could be a rare Switch game, especially when people are like, oh, Tetris 99, no, that was a really good game. I am so sorry that the server shut down. Because they just shut down the Pac-Man 99 servers. I think Tetris 99 is still going. This is probably going to shut down soon, and I think the DLC of this game has it where you can do like a single player CPU battle. I don't know. This, you should definitely pick up, because I think it's still pretty cheap. I might be wrong though. Coming in number 3 is another game that I'm just speculating, and once again, a weird Switch release. But the weird thing about this is Nintendo didn't have to do this. So coming in number 3 is DC Supergirl's Teen Power. Now, for the longest time, this had came out on the Switch for the last 2 years, but it stayed at $60. And the main reason why it was at $60 for the longest time is it was published by Nintendo. Nintendo loves their $60 games. But what's weird about this is, why did Nintendo publish this? Warner Brothers is a big company. They have the money to fund this. And the fact that Nintendo wanted to do this, it's just weird. It's now starting to lower in value for the physical release. And I think the obscurity of this game is what's going to land it being a expensive Switch title. Especially due to the fact that it's a first-party Nintendo title. A lot of people are going to start collecting those in due time. Especially like with Tetris 99, that's going to be one that people don't even know of its existence. A lot of people might be the same way with this one because it's just so unexpected to see Nintendo publish this, and why would they want to publish this? You can find this for a good deal, and I think this is definitely one to be on the lookout for. Coming in number 2 is one that I'm honestly not really sure. I'm putting it on this list though because the news just dropped that this is going to be going off all store shelves and digital stores very soon. I believe early next year. I might be wrong about that. But that game is Friday the 13th. This is one that came out on the Switch very late. I think this came out almost 2 years later after it came out on other platforms. And the Switch version was not the greatest. It was just Friday 13th on the Switch, so a lot of people didn't complain about it. It graphically didn't look good, but it was still Friday the 13th on Nintendo Switch. This game does not really have much of a community anymore, and that's probably why it's shutting down, although I think they lost the licenses to Friday the 13th. That's the problem with a lot of games nowadays, is we're seeing a lot of licensed property used, and they're gonna be delisted soon. That's why we gotta stay physical on those licensed characters. So whenever this goes out, I think a lot of people are gonna want the Switch version for a few reasons that it came out later after all the other consoles. Like, this shouldn't have gotten a Switch physical copy, but it did. And it also comes with a poster, which is weird to me. I don't know, maybe people are gonna have an interest in the market for the Friday the 13th Nintendo Switch poster. But with all things considering, I think you could get this for a good price. I think it's like a $20 game still. And it also has the DLC. The other versions of the game don't. So keep that in mind. I don't know. This is one I'm like, I don't know. But for less than $20, it's good to have it. It's a cool cover. I mean, it's Friday the 13th on the Switch. I don't think you can do anything else with it once the server shut down though. So, alright, the final one. This is one you guys should definitely buy if you haven't already, because this is probably like one of the worst selling Switch games of all time. A lot of people forgot of its existence, and you can still get it for a good price. It might go skyrocketing after this video because with the type of name that I have, you know, I put value on things when I bring it up. Sorry, my ego's too high right now. Coming in, number 1 is Payday 2 on the Nintendo Switch. This game only sold like 10,000 copies. The Switch version of this game, it stinks because it had potential to be good, but the developers, Overkill, did not do a good job on the Payday 2 version. They gave an extremely old version of the game, like a console version, and put it on the Nintendo Switch with a few new content things. Like, it has a character called Joy. It actually looks like a Joy-Con. The character, she looks pretty cool. And she's now in Payday 3, but that character is definitely looking like a Joy-Con. I mean, it's called Joy. So you kind of have like a Nintendo character in here. And the Switch community, it's non-existent for this game because no one bought the game. It came out, it was supposed to come out in 2017 when the Switch, around the time that the Switch came out, but it kept getting delayed. just like a lot of Overkill projects, like Overkill's The Walking Dead. Does anybody remember that? I remember that. I actually played a demo for that and told them, wow, this looks a lot like Left 4 Dead 2. And then they got mad at me for saying that. I'm not joking. The Overkill development team wanted to actually kill me when I said that. And then I was like, is this coming to Switch? This would be great on the Switch because there's no Left 4 Dead 2 on the Switch. What an interesting story. That is a story for another day though. But the Payday 2 Switch port, it's good, but it's not good. I don't know, it's not a good game. Like, I don't know, it's cool because we have Payday 2 on the Switch. The single player stuff's pretty cool, but when you go to the multiplayer side, it's just kind of a mess. Payday 2 is one to be on the lookout for because this came out of nowhere in 2018 and literally 0 physical copies are out there. It's like a non-existent game. There's only like 10,000 copies out there, or probably less than 10,000. I know this game sold very poorly. That's why the community support from Overkill died on this so fast. And you can find it for like 40 bucks. I'm telling you, with this being on the Switch physically, because why is this on the Switch physically? Why did this come out on the Switch? It came out like Overkill 2. Payday 2 is like a game that it should not be on the Switch because it's just such a late game to have on that console. Even with it coming out in the first year of the Switch, it's weird. Very weird. This is one to look out for. Definitely buy it. I mean, look at this cover. Does that cover not look sick? Come on now. Come on. Hey, what's going on everyone? MonadoMax here, and today I brought out a good old Nintendo Switch game that I've been wanting to review on the channel for quite some time.
Where's part 3? Where's part 3?
No part 3. I don't. Did you guys hear that? Anyways, today I wanted to do a review on the game that I've been really playing a lot of and had a lot of fun time playing.
Where's part 3? Where's part 3?
No, I'm not. Stop. No, I want to do this video. I don't want to always do rare Switch game videos. I have other videos on the channel. Do you guys hear that? Is that just me? Anyways, I really wanted to review Garfield Kart today, as it's a game I've been playing a lot on my Nintendo Switch, and I'm absolutely loving it. It's a game that you can... Stop! Fine. I will do it. I will do part 3 to rare Switch games, because you guys won't stop. I can't even do regular videos on this channel without you guys asking for this video. I can't even play Garfield Kart in peace without there being comments of where's part 3. So fine, you guys win. We're gonna do part 3 of rare Nintendo Switch games. My name is MonadoMax, and welcome to part 3 of rare Switch games to buy before they become super rare. Now, after calming down a bit, I must say, if you guys have not checked out the first 2 parts in the series, we go over a lot of games on there that you probably should look into buying because some of them are still kind of decently priced. Well, the first part, we kind of had some of those games rated in value. But on part 2, we still hold some games on there that you could still buy. And on part 3, I'm sure the same thing could potentially happen. Now, I want to highly highlight the fact that this is us just speculating about Switch games to buy before they become rare. We could end up being very wrong or very right, which so far we've ended up being very right on most of what we've talked about, but we sometimes throw obscure ideas out there. So keep in mind before you get all comments like, why did you put this game on the list and not this other game on the list? Well, I'm assuming there'll be another part down the road because there's other games on here that I could talk about, but I've come up with another list of games that you guys should look to buy before they become super expensive. Some of these are already kind of rare, but not expensive. So let's go ahead and get into this amazing top 10 list. This is in no particular order, but starting in number 10, we have the Latent Mystery game that was on Nintendo Switch. Now, this is a game that came out of the Nintendo Switch really out of nowhere. It was one of the last level 5 releases out there, and I think one of the only level 5 releases out there for the Nintendo Switch before they shut down. The company shut down. Now, it is starting to make a comeback. I believe they're having their first project come back as a company sometime this year, like late this year. Now, gotta remember, level 5 used to be out of a business that no longer exists. The Professor Layton series is pretty popular, And the fact that we only had one game for the Nintendo Switch, and that one game wasn't really, from my understanding, a true Professor Layton game, it was more of a spin-off game. This could be one of those games once Professor Layton comes back to the series, because they're doing another Professor Layton game. There's no release date, they just announced Level 5 is making one. This is probably going to be one of those games that people really want to get to once the next Professor Layton game comes out for the Switch. Assuming it comes out for the Switch, it could very well be for the next Nintendo console, considering how late we are into the Nintendo cycle of the Switch. However, at the end of the day, I think this is going to be a game that will be highly, highly, highly sought after, and still a game that you can find for decently priced. I think I've seen it go for about 50 bucks. 50 bucks for this, I think, is going to be a good price, because this is a game that is going to easily be, in my opinion, an over $100 game in a few months, potentially years from now. Okay, coming in number 9. This is going to be probably one that you guys are not going to believe me on, because it just doesn't seem possible. But we've talked about on this channel how most of the time when a Switch game sells out, you're not going to see a restock for it when it comes to these third-party games. Because Switch cartridges are very expensive to make. Like, very expensive. And you have to order a lot to actually do a restock for a game. So that's why a lot of Switch games go out of print. And we have a game right here that surprisingly went out of print very fast. Persona 5 Royal. You cannot find this game anywhere right now, brand new, anywhere. I think the only place that you can sometimes find it is Amazon. But everywhere else, GameStop, Target, Walmart, Best Buy, all of them are sold out or are no longer selling this game, but mostly sold out. Persona 5 Royal is a huge game to come to the Nintendo Switch. Probably one of the biggest third-party games that we have on Nintendo Switch. Going into the next Nintendo console, and when we find out that the next Nintendo console is backwards compatible, this is going to be a game that people are going to want to buy. And a lot of people don't realize that this game is out of stock yet, because this is actually a recent finding that has just happened. Now, Coleman might show an image of the thing that's going around showing that this is sold out everywhere. And this is, again, this is surprising. Interesting thing about Persona 5 Royal 2 is there's two versions of the game out there. There's this Steelbook edition, and then there's a standard normal edition out there. They both came out at the same time at the same price, which was kind of weird. So yeah, that's something to look out for. This is a game you can still find like on eBay and other people selling their copy for like 60 bucks. I think this is one that you should definitely pick up, because a lot of people are going to want to buy this game for the next Nintendo console whenever we get that next Nintendo console. And just in general, I think Persona 5 Royal, people are going to want that game physically on their Nintendo Switch. Coming in number 8 is a weird one, a very weird one. We had this scenario happen in the last part where we had a game that was only digital that came out physical, and no one knew it had a physical release, and it had a digital physical box. So whole story is Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, it came out on the Switch, but it was digital only. In fact, we just uploaded a video of me holding the digital only game inside of a box, or a download code inside of a box. I feel like that's such a waste of plastic. I don't understand the point of that. Why didn't you, well, no, cartridges are very expensive. Point is, the developers of that game canceled the Switch physical copy. I'm holding it right now, but Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 has such a weird release. I have this at number 8 because this was supposed to have a standard normal release like what I'm holding right now, but they completely canceled it towards the middle of, I think actually the middle of October is when we found this news out, that the Switch version would no longer have a physical release. They were going to delay the physical release to release this digital copy one that we found the other day. And now on Amazon, and from my understanding, this is only on Amazon right now, you can buy Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 with the cartridge now. No other retailer, from my understanding, sells this except for Amazon. All the other retailers sell the download code. To me, that is very weird, and I feel like a lot of people are going to want to buy this due to it being what it is and how it has been rated a really good game. And not to mention the weird release calendar that it had. Digital release only, got this little physical digital code, was supposed to have a physical, didn't happen. then has a physical copy come out of nowhere. Again, this has not been officially announced anywhere, so it's so weird. So weird, and I think this is one, because of how obscure and weird the story is behind this physical release, it's one to look for. It goes on sale a lot for 30 bucks on Amazon, so if you want to take the chance on it, up to you, but this could be one that doesn't end up being rare. Like I said, we throw some predictions in there, and we also include weird stories. Coming in number 7 is Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection. I'm convinced Capcom doesn't really know what they're doing when it comes to these collection of games, because they sometimes release a physical copy and sometimes they don't, and if they do release a physical copy, part of it's on the cartridge, and then you gotta get this download code. It's a mess when it comes to Capcom on Nintendo Switch physical games in America. And I think they have realized that there is a giant interest for their collection games to have physical releases after the success of this, the Great Ace Attorney, and the fact that so many people in America bought Ace Attorney onto the physical copy that was in Japan over here in America because they wanted Ace Attorney on the Switch physically so bad. And when I say this is a successful release, this sold out instantly when the game came out. You had to be lucky to find this game at launch date. Really, the only chance you could get this game is if you had pre-orders, and when they didn't have pre-order copies, it was instantly selling out. This game was hard to find for about a month or two, and then it finally got a little bit of a mini restock. I don't know how and what they did to make that happen, but now it's been a few more months, it's gone. The game is, you cannot find this at retailer stores anymore. And if you do, you need to pick this up because this is a relatively cheap game to buy, and this is going to be one that people are going to want physically because of what it is, the spin-off game series that it is, the fact that it's Mega Man on Switch and it's a physical copy, rare game, that type of stuff. This game has a lot of potential to be very valuable for the Switch. And I think most Capcom titles are going to end up being rare for the Switch. When it comes to the collection ones, I think the Great Ace Attorney, strong chance, and I feel strongly that Ace Attorney Apollo Justice, the trilogy of those games, are probably going to be rare Switch games, especially since the physical copy is only for the Nintendo Switch. There's no PlayStation physical for that. I don't know, this is one that you should definitely buy if you can get your hands on it, because it's very hard, and I think it still runs about $50 to $60. It might be a little bit lower, but this is one you should buy. It's already an out-of-print Switch game. Coming in number 6, this might be a stretch, but I don't know. I feel like we have to put this in because this was such a unexpected Switch title. That's Bayonetta Origins. This came out of nowhere at the Game Awards. This was Nintendo's game announcement, and they had Fire Emblem Engage DLC announced here at the Game Awards. 2022, that's what it was. And they announced this Bayonetta game out of nowhere and that it was coming out in March. $60, and they also was like, oh, it's gonna have a physical release. And the weird part about this is no one wanted this game. Apparently, it was actually a decent art style and kind of interesting, but ultimately, no one wanted this. This game did not sell well because it was a spin-off series that no one really asked for. It was weird. It seemed more like an eShop title that they were charging $60 for. And this game, a lot of people don't realize it's got a physical copy. I don't think it's out of print yet, but they're definitely not going to make more copies. For Nintendo to put a game out of print, it's a lot more difficult to do. But if it's truly a game that's not going to sell, they're going to end production. And I'm 95% sure the production of this one's ending. As for myself at my retail stores, I sometimes see this. But either way, this is going to go out of print. And when people start to realize, hey, the Nintendo Switch has all the Bayonetta games, people are going to want to get this when they realize that there's a 4th Bayonetta title out there that's a spin-off that's not Bayonetta 4. People are going to want to pick this up. And this could potentially be a very, very extremely expensive Switch game in my opinion. Coming in number 5 could be a stretch too, but I'm noticing that at my local Best Buy and other Best Buys that I have gone to, I can't find this game anymore. And I was told that this was supposed to be at places like GameStop and Target, those type of places. And for some reason, never happened. It was supposed to, might still be, but I don't think so anymore. Return to Monkey Island. Now, I don't know. This says Devolver. I don't know if this is a limited run release or not, because there's no mention of limited run, except on the back, but I don't know. This would have seemed to be a title that, if it wasn't limited run, it'd be like Shredder's Revenge, where you can buy that at any other retailer. And I was told that this was supposed to be one of those games that you could buy at any other retailer. Only place I found was Best Buy. And Best Buy, I can't find this at Best Buy anymore. And this is kind of like another story where it's like, I think this is one that people are going to really want because of what the game is, what the IP is, and the fact that it's the first Monkey Island game in a very long time. This is one that you can still find, I think, on eBay, kind of cheap. It's over the value now of what you paid, but not too much over the value. I think I saw some sold listings for like 50 bucks. The physical copy was $35 when it came out, and yeah, I don't know. Weird story behind this, considering that, again, GameStop and other places was supposed to sell this, and it just didn't happen. Not a limited run release, but it's a Devolver release. Devolver likes to sell most of their games physically at GameStop and other places. I don't know. This might be one that doesn't count because I'm still trying to figure out the story behind limited run, what they have to do with this, considering Devolver, Lucasfilm, which I know Lucasfilm has done some stuff with limited run. I don't know. This could be an out there thing. If it's truly, I don't think it's truly a limited run game though, because it doesn't have the numbers and all that. This could be an out there thing. At the end of the day, it's still a cheaper Switch game to find that you should buy if you're trying to get stuff before they go high up. Coming in, number 4 is Dark Souls Remastered. I will never forget how Nintendo Direct, I should say it's a mini Nintendo Direct, but this January 2018 Nintendo Mini Direct ended with the announcement of Dark Souls Remastered. I remember so many people, at least online, when I watched reactions, were so disappointed in that. And it was kind of a weird Nintendo announcement, in all honesty, especially since this was a multi-platform release. Nintendo kind of hinted that this would be an exclusive to the Switch. However, the Switch version has a lot of unique things to the game, that being the amiibo support and the fact that there is a Dark Souls amiibo out there. I think once people start to realize, once we get towards the Nintendo collecting scene on the Switch, because the Switch collecting scene is still, it's small, but it's growing very fast, and I think it's about to really be something big within the next year. I think people are going to really want to look for this Dark Souls game, considering a lot of the abilities that you can do with the amiibo and the fact that the Switch version has exclusive stuff like that. And I think this is already a game, actually it is out of print. I have seen this game go for 50 bucks already. Now, I want you guys to know that this game launched at 40 bucks. So when you buy this game, I mean, it's already over value, at least over retail value. So it is an out of print Switch game. And again, I think it's going to be one that does go up higher due to the features that we've talked about. Again, this is probably our last one that will be like, out there prediction, but this is one, again, that you can still get for cheap, under 60 bucks, under a AAA game, under a triple $60 game. That's one to get. This is one that I really feel like, again, this is probably the only thing different with this one. I think this is going to be one that people will want to get years later after the Nintendo Switch. This one has a unique story behind it. That game being in number 3 is Lost Spear. This is a game that you can get very cheap right now. 20 bucks right now is what I was seeing sold listings for. What makes this game unique is at one point it used to be the rarest Nintendo Switch game of all time. And the reason why it was one of the rarest Nintendo Switch games of all time was due to the fact that, and this is still the fact to this day, because it never released anywhere else, you were only able to buy this through the Square Enix website. Very similar release to the iconic Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster, except they didn't really do, they did like a very you know how you get salt and you're like spraying salt on your food? They did a spraying the salt of that, whereas very minimal restock of Final Fantasy out there. When I say very minimal, very minimal. And they did do another restock of Lost Spear on the Switch that once again did sell out on their website, and that was it. This game, I think, will strongly be one of those games when people find out about it. From my understanding, it's a Switch exclusive. It's a Square Enix game. You know, there's a lot of what I call Squeenix fans out there that really love Square Enix and will go out of their way to buy stuff for their company on these consoles. And a lot of the time Square Enix games are worth a lot of money on the older consoles, and it's typically those obscure titles. This is an obscure title out there, and I think eventually, like I said, this is going to be a long time from now, people are going to want this because A, it's exclusive to the Switch, and 2, it's... How did I went from A to 2? Okay. B, it's Square Enix, exclusive to the Switch. Weird story behind it. People are going to want that. So, get this. If you're going to get anything on this list, probably get this. Coming in number 2 is Octopath Traveler. This is a game that has held its value. You can find it for about $60. Sometimes you can get lucky and find it for $50. The first Octopath Traveler physically was exclusive to the Nintendo Switch. I think it has now come out on all platforms digitally, but the physical copy of the first Octopath game is exclusive on the Switch and published by Nintendo. It is a Square Enix game, but Nintendo, for whatever reason, they published the Switch version of the game. Well, at one point it was exclusive to the Switch. My whole point in bringing this up is Octopath Traveler has become a series because, well, it's become more than a series. The engine that Octopath Traveler uses, the 2D HD engine, is now being used on other games and way more games down the road. And the way that that whole game series originated, or at least that engine originated, was through Octopath Traveler. And this has become a very popular game. This was also at one point a rare Switch game to find when it first came out, but Nintendo did do a restock on the game. Now you can't find it anywhere again. You can find it pre-owned, you can sometimes find it new, but most of the time you're finding Octopath Traveler 2 now at stores, because that has come out last year and is on all platforms. And the interesting thing about Octopath Traveler 2 is you can find that game cheaper than you can find the first game. I thought that was pretty interesting, and I think with there being more of this 2D HD engine stuff, people are going to want to play the original game and own the original game where it all started, and that's going to be this one right here. This is also one you should probably heavily look into buying, because the story behind it, what it created, and how it's going to be a franchise at this point, because there's 2 and I'm expecting there to be a 3rd one down the road. People are going to want this. This is one to definitely look out for. Coming in number 1 is Tokyo Mirage Sessions. This is a game out there that came out very, very late in the Wii U cycle, and once it came out, everyone was like, can we please put this on the next Nintendo console, since no one really cared about buying it for the Wii U because it was the Wii U. Nintendo listened, they put this out in 2019, and no one bought it. I have heard that this game didn't even sell 1 million copies out there for the Switch, and for a first-party game, for what it was, that's not good for Nintendo. That's actually considered very bad numbers for Nintendo. This is a big IP. This is Fire Emblem, although it's kind of hard to tell that it's Fire Emblem because it doesn't really say Fire Emblem. It says FE, but not everyone's going to realize that. And it's a crossover of Shin Megami Tensei. This is something that people are going to probably really, really want down the road, because Shin Megami Tensei is becoming a very popular series by the minute because of Persona, the spin-off series. Crazy that the spin-off of the game is more popular than the mainline game. I think that's kind of crazy to say and kind of insulting, but I'm not an Atlas fan. I mean, I like Persona 5, but I'm not a diehard Atlas fan. I'm sure you guys are probably ashamed to say that the spin-off's more popular than the mainline. I don't know. My friend Sly, he probably is. Actually, I think Sly's more of a Persona fan anyways. Point is, you can't find this game anymore. Still, at that price, 60 bucks, if you can find it. You're only gonna be able to find this at, you know, pre-owned at this point. You're not gonna be able to find a sealed copy. This game is out of print and one to buy eventually, because once people start collecting first-party Nintendo games, because this is a Nintendo first-party game, just like Octopath, these are probably going to be two of the ones that you definitely really are going to be struggling to get, because what it is, low. Well, this is going to be a little bit easier, but it's going to be more expensive because of what it is. This is just going to straight up be hard to find and going to be expensive because it's hard to find. Apparently the game's good. I need to play it. I'm busy. Well, it's time for another one of those videos. This is the only time that people care about my channel. The only time that I am useful as a person. Max, where is part 4? Where is it, Max? Every video I make, it's like no one cares about what I'm making. It's like I'm good for only one thing. Figure out what could potentially be a rare Switch game. And you know what? Time has flown by, and I think it is time for us to do another part. Part 4 is finally here. We're gonna be doing it. Rare Switch games you should buy before they become super rare, part 4. And as you can see, I own a lot of Nintendo Switch games. I have stuff overflowing over here. I got Switch games over here. We're about to get a new shelf that's a lot of it's gonna be used for Switch games. And yeah, I have a lot. Like I've said before in the past of these videos, sometimes we throw obscure things out there. We are just speculating what could be rare. So I don't want any comment being like, there's no way this is gonna be a rare game. You're da-da-da-da-da, you're stupid, Max. What are you doing? We're not listening to any of that. Now, without further ado, let's get into this, because I know you guys are just dying. You're just waiting. I already know there's gonna be a part 5 comment even before this video is finished. Probably as soon as this video drops, someone's gonna be like, okay, Max, Colonel, but where's part 5? Y'all should be thankful that you're getting part 4 so soon, because part 3 came out January, I think. We're in April. I think you should be thankful. Now, I have 10 Switch games right here. No particular order, because like I said, a lot of this list I'm actually pretty proud of, because we have some pretty out there predictions. Some that I think people could safely say is going to be hard to find. But we have some crazy predictions in here. So we kind of have our tinfoil hats on this one. Although the last 3 times that I've put on that tinfoil hat, I've been correct on Switch games rarity. So let's take a look at these 10 games that I have selected for the rare Switch games to buy before they become super rare. Starting off number 10, we're going with one that is out there. But I want you guys to hear me out before you say that I'm stupid. Because I do have some pretty convincing evidence out there about this game being potentially an out-of-print Switch game soon, and potentially just not many copies out there. Starting off number 10, we got The Walking Dead Destinies. Now, this has a very interesting Switch release out of any of the consoles. This was supposed to come out November 17th, the day that the digital version came out. All platforms. All the physical copy versions of this game, PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, got delayed into December 5th. Then a few weeks going into that, November 17th came, the game was horrible. A lot of people was looking forward to this game, and well, it just was not good. Game Mill Entertainment, they can sometimes be a hit or miss. And obviously, when the reviews came out for this game, the physical copies of this game for PlayStation and Xbox just wasn't selling well. The Switch version ended up getting delayed again, not the other consoles, just the Switch version, into January. And then it just randomly released in January with no release date given. Now, the reason why I say this is the Switch version kept getting delayed. A lot of people are not buying this game months after because they know it's not a good game. This was reviewed as one of the worst games of last year. And secondly, it's surprising that Game Mill Entertainment actually made a physical release of The Walking Dead Destinies. Game Mill Entertainment has actually started not releasing games physically for the Nintendo Switch. They do like a little download code thing, which we also pointed out in the last Switch games video with the Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. There was some secret version out there that was only on Amazon where you could get a cartridge version. Y'all sold out that game so fast when that video came out. Want to know if you guys actually ended up buying that from the video that I recommended, because now you can't find that anywhere and no one's selling the cartridge version. It's kind of like a hidden gem, like something no one has ever seen before. And I think The Walking Dead Destinies has a similar path going forward. I'm also really struggled to find this game. I had to go to multiple different stores to pick up this. A lot of stores told me they didn't even really get any copies of that game, and if they did get a copy, it was just one copy of the game. It's still a relatively new release, so it's not out of print yet. I mean, I expect there is not going to be any new versions of this game because people have already decided they're not buying it. It's dropping down in price quick. It's Walking Dead. I think the whole thing of it being a Walking Dead game, the whole, all of that, I think could really hold up to a lot of collectors really wanting to have this game. And just, again, the fact that it's Walking Dead, the obscurity behind this game, people are going to want to have this game. And I think definitely towards the later end of the next Switch console probably, you'll see this spike up. And it might spike up even before the Switch 2 gets here. I feel like I bring this up every video, but I think it's important that I do. If you guys don't realize, Switch cartridges are a whole different storyline right there in terms of making physical copies compared to the PlayStation and Xbox games out there. When a Switch game gets a physical release, you have to print a decent amount of them. You can't do like a weird number. You have to do like 10,000, 15,000, 20,000. You can't do any weird numbers. Limited Run has talked about this a lot, and that's why they had to kind of make a limited run store, because they ended up with so much extra games, because with their open pre-order system, they always ended up with a weird number. And due to that, a lot of games don't get reprinted. Once a game's sold out on the Switch physically, it's done, because cartridges are already expensive to make. To already have to produce a lot at once, a lot of companies are not going to be for that. That's why the Switch is such an interesting system to collect for, because there's so many out-of-print games out there, and it's one of those systems that is still an active system that has so many pretty expensive games out there for the system, for a system that's still ongoing. So the Switch is very interesting to collect for, and due to all that whole cartridge thing, it gives players and whoever is a collector for the Switch a heads up on when they need to buy games. That's why you guys watch these videos, because I'm pretty good at figuring out what stuff's about to go out of print, that type of stuff. Coming in number 9 is Bayonetta 2. Now, the interesting thing about Bayonetta 2, this has been out of print for an extremely long time. I thought this was definitely going to get a re-release once Bayonetta 3 was coming out, let alone Bayonetta Origins, or even Bayonetta 1 when that came out physically for the Switch. But Nintendo was like, nah. This had a slight mini little reprinted version out there towards 2018, where if you notice my copy, it says it includes Bayonetta 1. Now, the other copies out there do not have that on there. It's just the Bayonetta 2, that is it. Now, with a lot of rumors floating with Bayonetta into next year's Nintendo console, if the console is actually releasing, a lot of things are going to be happening with Bayonetta. I think a lot of the Bayonetta games are going to be really valuable for the Switch, and considering Bayonetta 2 is already out of print, I think a lot of the times that game is still $60 online, which is not too expensive. It's just, for the type of game that is, it's really expensive. That's probably one you guys definitely want to pick up before we enter the next Nintendo console, especially if those Bayonetta rumors are to be true. Okay, number 8 is another one that, tinfoil hat, but just hear me out. Hear me out. I am going by rumors on this one, and it's coming from the big people within the Lego community on this, so I kind of trust this, but just, it's a rumor. And then we got our tinfoil hats. Coming in number 8, we have the Lego Harry Potter collection. Now, the reason why I have this on this list, one, it's a pretty cheap game to get right now for the Switch, and I always try to put games in here that you guys can still get for somewhat cheap, at least under 60 is my always the goal for the video, and this you can find for like $20. Now, the reason why we're putting this on here is there is a giant Lego rumor going around that we are about to see Lego remake the Harry Potter games for all consoles. Now, I don't know if they're going to be talking about the Switch or the Switch 2. Likely it's going to be for both. A lot of the times we've seen companies remake their games and then take away their games off the store page. For example, Sonic Generations, you were able to buy that on the Xbox store. You were able to buy that on Steam. That just got announced that they're doing like a remastered version coming out later this year. They have taken down those versions of the games. That way people could buy this new remastered version. With Lego Harry Potter potentially getting a remake, I could see Warner Brothers and Lego taking down this collection of games to really push sales for the remakes. And if that's the case, this is going to spike up like crazy. And I think this one is very unique because this was originally a PlayStation exclusive, this whole collection thing. Lego Harry Potter ended up, so Lego Harry Potter was on all platforms, but the collection for modern consoles was a PlayStation 4 exclusive. And then a few years later, it ended up on Switch. I don't think it ended up on Xbox. So this is kind of like a little Switch exclusive in some way. I mean, it's on PlayStation, and I don't know if it's on, well, I know the old versions you can play PC, but yeah, I don't know. With that in mind, it has both games on cartridge. I think a lot of people are going to want to have that, especially if these games get taken down once this remake gets announced. I don't know, tinfoil theory. I think this is going to be one people are really going to want, because we've seen with the Skywalker saga, a lot of people preferred the original over the big remake that Lego made with the whole Skywalker Star Wars saga thing. So keep that in mind, because this is like a $20 game that you can get right now. All right, number 7. This one is very weird, very unexpected, and concerning. I know Konami has already said that fans should not have to worry about it happening in America, but it's very weird that it's happening over there in Japan with it being out not that long. And in case you're wondering what I'm talking about, coming in number 7 is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga Collection. The reason why we're putting this on the list, this game is unexpectedly getting delisted in Japan on all platforms. Konami has not stated any reason as to why it's getting delisted. All they've said that it's going to be removed. That's it. Bye. Adios. They did say it's not going to affect America, but really all they were just talking about, it's not going to affect this year. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if Konami's losing the rights because they don't own the video game rights. It's Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon has been using the Turtles and other companies recently. Konami might be losing these rights very soon. I don't know what's going on with this, but this is very weird, and you could still buy this at other places. I don't know if they're actively making new copies, so I don't know if this is out of print, but it's going to be losing its license, what it sounds like, at some point. If it's happening in Japan, I expect maybe within the next year or two, this is going to be gone. And this is a relatively cheap game. This is a big game to have because the Turtle games are very classic games on there. You know, Turtles in Time is talked about as such an important, iconic game into that type of genre that it was. The arcade games, this just has so much content into it. You can get it for like $30. It's important to have this, and I hope this isn't getting delisted, because that's really scary considering this has only been out, it's like 2022. Very scary times right now, guys, when we enter this digital era. Very scary. So coming in number 6 is one that a lot of you guys, every video has been asking me, is this a chance that this game could become rare? And I have this rule on this channel when it comes to these rare Switch game videos. I don't want to tell you guys to buy something if I don't own it. When it comes to the rarity, if the game's going to be rare. That way, I don't know, in case I'm wrong, it doesn't feel like I own it, so I went out of my way to buy it too. So I'm out the money that you put into it too. I don't know. I feel like I have to own the game if I'm talking about it in this series. I've not talked about it, and I recently bought it, and I've been doing some research onto this game, and I think it has a possibility of being rare. I don't know if it's going to be expensive, but it's definitely going to be a rare title because of its obscurity and all of that. That game being Garfield Lasagna Party. I heard some interesting things about this. When I bought this, apparently this is actually a good game, which is crazy if you know the history of Garfield games. Typically they're not very good, especially Garfield Kart. That game is a meme, but a lot of people jokingly say they like it, but it's just because of the meme behind it. And Garfield Kart was brought over to the Switch, and the whole thing was crazy. But it brought the spark back to Garfield games, and we got this right after, Garfield Lasagna Party. Except this one, they actually tried to make a Garfield game, a good game. Listen, I haven't played it, but the person that I bought this from, they're like, Max, I'm telling you, this is actually pretty good. If you're a Mario Party guy, you're gonna love this. Trust me, this is a good Mario Party clone. I was like, okay. Now, the reason why we're talking about this, Mario Party clones, anytime there's a good one out there, people are quick to want to get it. People don't know this is a good game. And once we enter that next era of Nintendo, this is where we're going to start seeing the hidden gems of the Switch come out. And Garfield Lasagna Party is going to be one of those that comes out. Similar to, I think, that Shrek GameCube game. I think that was one that was party game. Once people found out that was actually a good game, that one like rose and spiked in the price of it, just due to the fact that people were like, oh, it's really good. This is on all platforms, so it being a little different with the Garfield cart, because Garfield cart, the physical copy, was just out there for Switch. This is a relatively cheap game that you can get, but the interesting thing out there is it's hard to find the American version of Garfield cart. Every listing that I'm seeing for this game, a majority of it at least, has been out of country listings. So we've seen that certain versions of the game become rare, and I'm guessing this one is already out of print from the research that I found, because when I was looking at like Amazon, for example, they were only selling the other country versions of this game. So this is one to look out for if you can find it, because it's relatively cheap, and I do feel this one's going to be hard, but not yet. It's going to take the next console for this one to be difficult. Okay, number 5. This is going to be the last one that I'm like reaching, but I think with what's going on right now, there's a big possibility that this is going to happen. Coming in number 5 is Dragon Ball FighterZ. This game recently, before the passing of the creator, was becoming to have a big comeback. They are just now about to re-release Dragon Ball FighterZ for PlayStation 5 and Series X. They're doing new updates out of nowhere for Dragon Ball FighterZ. Everyone's starting to get back into Dragon Ball FighterZ. From my understanding, I believe it's cross-play platform. I don't really play the Dragon Ball games. I'm not really much of an anime guy, so don't get too mad at me there about not playing it. I wanted to play this because it looked cool, but I realized I don't know anything about the anime. Why am I playing this? But Dragon Ball FighterZ is one of those things that's going to be, I think, when people find out it's on Switch, you're like, oh, I need to buy this for Switch. Because this also came out late. This came out, I think, almost 2 years after. I want to say almost 2 years. It was over a year after its initial release, because Bandai Namco was pushing Xenoverse 2 to be on Switch before this. It's a weird story. They were like, if Xenoverse 2 doesn't sell well, you ain't getting this. And Xenoverse 2 sold well, so they brought this over. I think a lot of people are going to want to have this with this whole big comeback of Dragon Ball FighterZ that's happening. And especially a lot of people are playing these Dragon Ball games now due to the creator of Dragon Ball passing away. So this is one to look out for, because it's out of print, but you can find it like GameStop pre-owned for a relatively cheap price. And I don't think they're going to print this one back, even with its comeback scene. It's possible, since they're doing this whole new version for PlayStation 5 and Series X, but I don't think they're going to print this. And in a few months, I expect this one to be spiking up in value. Coming in number 4 is another one that you guys were pointing out, hey, why is this not on the list yet? I'm very surprised. And I've always said this was going to be on the list at some point. I just had so many other things that I wanted to show off first before getting to that game. Coming in number 4 is the 13 Centrioles. Centrioles. It's one of those words. Listen, I don't know about this game. This is a weird game. I was playing a little bit of it and I'm just like, what? Yeah, no, this one was not for me. But the interesting thing surrounding this game, when it first came out, everyone was like, oh, this needs to come to Nintendo Switch. Please, Atlas, put this on Nintendo Switch. And people were begging and begging and begging, and then it finally came to Nintendo Switch and no one cared. Like, Atlas just waited forever to put this out on Switch and nobody bought it. This thing dropped down in price so fast due to the fact that no one was buying it. And I mean, I don't know if the Switch version sold well, but I definitely saw a lot of people was like, I don't care about having this on Switch since I just beat it on PlayStation. This is going to be one of those games that probably towards the end of the Switch or early next console, people are going to be like, oh, this is a hidden gem. 13 Centioles. Weird game, but hidden gem. I mean, this is a really out there game. I don't know, guys. I don't think you should play this game, but I mean, listen, it's up to you, but this was an out there game. For me, I just a little uncomfortable at times. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't think this is a good game. You probably shouldn't buy it. But if you're trying to just buy something for the collection or rarity, that type of stuff, then you should pick this up, because I've seen this GameStop pre-owned very cheap. I don't know how much it's going for new listings. I know it's out of print already, but you can find other places selling it. I just don't know if I forgot the price of it. It's probably like a $20 game, but definitely look out for this one. Especially those RPGs, JRPGs, all those type of games are gonna really spike up towards the next Nintendo console. It's how it always happens on any platform. Those type of games, they're cheap on while the console is actively going, but once we enter that next console, always goes up. This happens for PlayStation, Nintendo DS, Game Boy Advance, every console out there. It has always pretty much happened, unless it's some game that's just massively produced, like Persona 5, for example. That's not going to be expensive. Well, the Switch version of Persona 5, we talked about why that's going to be expensive, but anyways, coming in number 3 is one that I am so glad came out to the Nintendo Switch this year. Ace Attorney Apollo Justice. Now, you're probably being like, Max, why are you putting this on the list? This is a very new game. This is like this year. This just came out 2 months ago. Why do you have this here? Firstly, the big reason why I'm putting this on this list, a lot of the Capcom remastered games have been selling out pretty quick and have struggled to get restocks out there. I don't think that's going to happen yet for this because this is relatively new, but we saw this happen with the Mega Man Legacy Collection, with the Battle Network Legacy Collection. And what's interesting about the Switch version of Apollo Justice is the Switch version is the only physical copy out there. It came out on PlayStation, and it might have came out on Xbox. I know it came out on PlayStation, but in America, the only way to get that physically is through the Switch. And it's due to the fact that there has been such an uproar about how the original Ace Attorney did not get a Switch physical release here in America, but in other countries it did. People are like, why, Capcom? That's so weird. And it is very weird. But end of the day, this is one to get at some point. I think you can hold off a little bit. Although I have seen some people struggling to find this because it's kind of an I don't know what the right word. I don't want to say obscure. The best way I can say this is if you own this, and in America, it's weird that this exists, but not the original Ace Attorney. Like, this is the sequel to the original game. A lot of people might not buy this because they don't have the original. Just out there, a little bit of out there analogy right there. But either way, this is one to look out for. Coming in number 2 is Dragon Quest Monsters. Enough has been said about this game because Square Enix themselves have actually asked people, hey, we're not printing many physical copies of this game. Please consider buying it digitally. They literally said that the week that this game was coming out. They were serious because not many physical copies of this game exist. It's, I wouldn't say hard to find. There was not a restock for it though. I keep up the tabs with this because I work with so many retailers out there. This game, it was either A, they got it and no one really cared, or B, they got it and it sold out and they just never got anything else in for that game. Dragon Quest Monsters, for what it is, with the Dragon Quest IP and the type of spin-off game that it is, that's going to be one that people are really going to buy up for the Nintendo Switch, especially considering it is a exclusive Dragon Quest Nintendo Switch game. A lot of people are going to want to own this game, and it's actually a relatively fun game. I enjoyed it a lot. I feel like the best comparison is Dragon Quest Pokemon Edition. Like, it is a very fun game. $60, so it's out there, but it's Square. You're not going to see this go on sale, really, and if it does go on sale, the lowest you're going to probably find it is like $40, $44. So definitely pick this one up, because again, this is going to be one that really spikes up for what it is, and the fact that it was exclusive to the Switch, and the next Nintendo console, people are going to be like, oh, I need to play Dragon Quest Monsters, especially if it has backwards compatibility. This next one, I basically have like insider information on this one in terms of that I know for a fact that it's already out of print. At least from what I've gathered, the way it was worded to me, it seems like it's already out of print. Coming in number 1 is Another Code Recollection. This is a Nintendo game that had just come out a few months ago, and it was a remake of something that really Nintendo fans weren't really asking for, but we got it anyways. Now, I pre-ordered this the day that Direct happened where they announced this game, and it took me forever to get my pre-order in for GameStop. Normally it doesn't for Switch games, especially stuff that's coming from Nintendo directly, because this is a published Nintendo game, which that's going to be one of the reasons why this will be a game that people are really going to want to own once they start collecting for the Switch, because someone's going to want like the complete first-party set, published set of Nintendo games, and that's going to be on here right there. But what makes this so interesting is my pre-order wasn't coming in, and it got to be the point where my GameStop was reaching out to other GameStops to see if they could just send them the copy, like go to their store and bring it over here, because this person looked at their little GameStop machine to see if they could order more copies, a few more copies for the store. The machine told them, hey, no, you can't order any more copies of the game. It's sold out. And GameStop, I think, still has it as a sold out game. I might be wrong, but it has never popped back up into the stores that I go to. And the only reason why I have it is they finally found my copy of Another Code. They actually gutted it accidentally because it was going to be a store display, and it was a giant mess. However, we got it, and it took almost a week for me to get my pre-order. But I got to learn a lot of interesting information, that this was going to be a rare Switch game from it. So I guess Horrible Day ended up helping you guys, you Switch collectors. Ladies and gentlemen, it is here. Part 5. Part 5 of the Nintendo Switch games you should buy before they become super rare. Now, it's been very interesting to do this series. This is the first time that I didn't get as many people begging for it as much in my DMs or in my YouTube comments. It actually felt normal to read my YouTube comments. I could read a MonadoMax video that had nothing to do with rare Switch games in the comments. It was just normal comments. I was like, wow, this is a nice change of pace here compared to what I was usually getting in the comments or in my DMs on Twitter and Instagram, or even my emails. Someone went as far as to email me for a part 3, I think is what it was at the time. But today, I was in a good mood. I was like, you know what? We are going to do a rare Switch games video today. And as I've said in every video before in this series, this is us just speculating. What I'm saying does not mean it's going to happen. So I don't want people in the comments being like, MonadoMax, you told me to get this game because it was gonna be, no. This is us speculating as a series. Although I will say most of the times of the games that I've selected, I have been right from my understanding. So, I mean, but still, this is just us speculating. And if you don't realize why the Switch is so interesting to collect for, I'll do it one more time. Basically, the Switch, with it being a cartridge-based system, it gets one print because cartridges are very expensive to produce, and Nintendo has a very strict amount that you're supposed to order at once. You can't order an odd amount compared to like PlayStation and Xbox. Hence why Switch games that you would not think would be expensive are actually expensive and you can no longer find out there. Now, I have a good 10 games here. I feel pretty strongly about these games being rare. We're gonna see, and let's go ahead and get into the top 10 list. Starting off number 10, I think is definitely safe to say that this will be a very expensive game down the road that you can still get at retail price. That game being Castle Crashers Remastered. Now, I was very surprised when they actually announced a physical release for this game a few months ago. Now, what's different about the Castle Crashers Remastered release for Switch is, first of all, the physical copy is only on Nintendo Switch, which surprises me because this game has been around for like 10 years. I would have thought, you know, like the Xbox would have got a physical release back in the 360 days because of how popular this game was, but this was strictly a digital-only game. Now, what's really, really interesting about the physical release of this game is it's sold exclusively on the developer's website. You can't find this at a GameStop or any place like that. They have re-released this once due to the fact that they sold out in like seconds when they released this onto their developer website. There is their second wave right here, and it seems like they've kind of indicated that once it's sold out, this is it, no more. And I think this is going to be a really rare Switch game to get, considering what game this is, how popular this game is, and the fact that it even got a release is very shocking to me, and kind of weird that out of all consoles, Switch got the physical release. This is one to look out for, and I think on their website, you know what? I'm just gonna show you guys that. I'm not even going to attempt if my camera will focus on that. That is where you'll find the Castle Crashers game. I think it's like 35 bucks. Don't buy it on eBay or anything. We'll show the eBay listings, of course, of what people are buying for this game, but you can still get this game as of right now recording this video. Now, once this video comes out, people might be like, oh, I need to buy the game, and then it's sold out.
All right, coming in number 9, as I've said before, we speculate things. And this one, I don't know. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know, because it's very weird. I believe one of these two games will end up being rare. Will it be expensive? I don't think so. Not super expensive at the very least. Coming in number 9 is Shin Megami Tensei 5. They just announced a few months ago that they're making a Shin Megami Tensei 5 like updated version called Vengeance. Basically, I think the version is supposed to be basically that it's coming to other platforms than the Switch. And it might be like the Persona 4 Golden to Shin Megami Tensei 5, like the updated version. I don't know too much about the Shin Megami universe because Nocturne, it makes me fall asleep every time that I play it. Like literally just thinking about the game, I'm just so sleepy. I might go lay down after this. Shin Megami Tensei 5, they've already confirmed through Atlas and everyone else that they are going to stop selling this version of Shin Megami Tensei out there on the eShop and in physical stores. So it's going to be delisted. I think the weird thing about this game is there's so many versions of it out there too. There's this one that I have that a lot of people probably don't have, which is like just the regular Nintendo Switch release. When the game came out, they had a steelbook and this version. A lot of people got the steelbook. If you pre-ordered the game, they gave you the steelbook version. Persona 5 Royal was the same thing when it came to Switch. They had a standard version like this and then a steelbook. I don't know which one's going to be rare. There's like 3 different versions of this game now once Vengeance comes out. I think one of the 3 is going to be rare. I think the chances of this one is a pretty good chance, and I also think there's a good chance that Vengeance could be rare because maybe a lot of people are not going to want to buy that since they already had this. Just keep that in mind. I think you can find this game very cheap right now. You still can find it very cheap. At the time of this recording, it's probably about to spike up because I think Vengeance is literally about to come out. But I think I saw this at my local GameStop for like 20 bucks. So coming in number 8 is one that really surprises me, that it's also very concerning that the fact that this ended up getting delisted. I believe, from my understanding, this game has already been delisted, so you can only find it physically if you want to play the game, which is so shocking considering what it is. Coming in number 8 is Samurai Jack Battle Through Time. Samurai Jack Battle Through Time is such a good game. If you haven't heard, Warner Brothers was sold by Discovery, and Discovery has done some horrible decisions with Warner Brothers. They're canceling movie projects left and right that have already been made, edited, all that good stuff. They're getting rid of titles that are on their streaming service, Max, out of nowhere. Like some of the original series that they had that was exclusive to that is just getting removed out of nowhere. So much is being canceled, so much is being removed to save money. It's crazy. And I believe, if I might be a little bit wrong about this part, but I believe Discovery went ahead and shut down Adult Swim Games, which is who made the Samurai Jack game. They've also made so many other games. I think they've made like 18 games. But Samurai Jack is a pretty big deal. I mean, it's Samurai Jack. Everyone loves Samurai Jack. This game, I don't think is too expensive right now. I think it's still about a $60 to $70 game. I think this is one that you should pick up once people start to realize what's going on with Warner Brothers. It's a big IP to lose out on, and it's actually a really good game. So this is one that you definitely want to probably get while you still can before it really goes up, because I think Samurai Jack is an important game, and this is kind of important to the storyline that they have and then the show. So I don't know, definitely keep your eye on this game if you can still get it, and make sure you don't buy the Best Buy version of the game. A lot of the times the Best Buy covers of limited run games, if you guys don't know, they had a collaboration with Limited Run Best Buy. It's over now, they don't do it anymore, but if there was a game coming out, Limited Run would send Best Buy a certain amount, whatever Best Buy wanted in terms of copies, they would send it with a different cover. The cover for this is, first of all, horrible when it comes to the Best Buy version. It's just very easy to find, very common, so it's not going to be as expensive as this cover. Another thing to look out for if you decide to buy this game is to make sure you don't buy the Japanese version of this game, because that one is extremely common. That's like a $20 game, the Japan copy of Samurai Jack. They have the exact same cover, so it could be hard to tell which one you're buying. just make sure you're getting the limited run version, this cover right here. So I don't normally do this. I typically keep these videos strictly with the American release set of the Nintendo Switch, but I'm only changing this up due to the fact that this is kind of a big deal to have for the Switch. It didn't get a release here in America, and it's such a huge series. I feel like a lot of people are going to want this in their American collection if you guys collect Switch games. And this is a game that you can get for very cheap, considering that it is a game that didn't release here in America. Now, there's a lot of rumors going around that they are going to be remaking the Dragon Quest games, the first 3 games in the 2D HD style. And the Switch actually got all 3 of those games already, not updated graphics or anything, or a remake or anything like that, but they have the original 3 games right here on cartridge. And I think coming in number 7, this Dragon Quest collection right here has a very good possibility of being an expensive game to get once they announce these remakes that are coming out. The 2D HD remakes. If it happens, of course, which it's coming from credible leakers, so it seems like it's in development. I think a lot of people were going to want to have the original games, because we've seen a lot of the times when a game gets announced about a remake, the originals typically go up in value, even ones that are being re-released onto other consoles. I think Silent Hill is a great example of this. If you guys saw how cheap Silent Hill games were back in the day compared to what they are now, it's crazy. I think this Dragon Quest collection is still like a $40 to $50 game that you can get. And if this goes out of print, it's not going to get a restock, of course. Once they're sold out, Square's not going to do it, because Square, for whatever reason, a lot of their games did not come here to America, physically at least. I'm surprised they did this and not release it in America, but it is what it is. This is one to look out for. You can get really cheap, and I definitely think this one's gonna go out of print. Normally, I don't like to do a lot of limited run into this too, due to the fact that that's already kind of limited, so I think it kind of defeats the purpose, but some of the limited run games are very cheap to get. They don't hold value a lot of the times, depending what game it is, and this is one that did not hold its value at the time of this recording, although I think it's really about to spike up. We'll see. Coming in number 6 is Yooka-Laylee. Now, the reason why I have Yooka-Laylee, a few days ago, they had just announced that for whatever reason, I don't know why, they are remaking Yooka-Laylee. Kind of weird, but they made a big graphical difference. Like, it is a major improvement compared to what is here right now that I'm holding. And it looks like it's going to come to every console and PC, and probably getting a physical release. And if it gets a physical release, this is definitely going to go up. The Yooka-Laylee series is something that's starting to grow, and this is the first game in the series. I think a lot of people are going to want to own the original game if this new remake is really good, which it's looking really good graphically. So it's kind of weird to me that they did that, but I guess if you're a collector, you're probably really happy about it if you have Yooka-Laylee on the Switch. This is still about a $50 to $60 game, so it's pretty much held its retail price for the Nintendo Switch. Probably going to go up once that new version of the game comes out, because I think that comes out later this year, or it might already start to be spiking up due to the announcement of a remake, because why would they remake this game? It's kind of weird, but I do know Yooka-Laylee was like a rushed game and had a lot of glitches, so I guess there's a reason behind everything. Coming in number 5 is probably one of the most obscure games I have ever played, and that game being Fight Crab. Fight Crab is a game that is definitely a game. I'll give you that. It is a unique game. There's a lot that I could say about Fight Crab. The fact that this even got a physical release very much surprises me. When this game, I think, really took off was during the pandemic. I remember so many people streaming this game, and then out of nowhere a physical release dropped. And the Nintendo Switch is definitely one of those game systems where you're gonna have so much obscure games, and there's some that really stand out, and this is probably one that stands out the most. And something that I've noticed with a lot of gaming consoles is those obscure games that really stand out end up being very expensive towards the cycle of the next console in that era. And I feel like Fight Crab is going to be one of those games that when people hear about it, they're going to be like, wait a second, I need to buy that. I need to play that. And I could see Fight Crab being one of the most expensive Nintendo Switch games out there. I believe the game is actually already out of print because I'm not seeing this game anymore in stores. I could be wrong though, and you guys in the comments can let me know if you're seeing this at your store, but I have not seen this at my stores anymore since then. Either way, very cheap game that you can still get. I think it's about a $30 game. Unless it's really gone up, if it's truly out of print. This is one that is a fun one to have. And I mean, look at that cover, guys. Look at that cover. That is the coolest cover ever. Just make sure you don't get the Japanese version of this game. We're probably looking at the American version being the expensive version out of the two. Coming in number 4 is something that I'm very surprised actually dropped on the Nintendo Switch. I don't think the fan base for it was as strong. I mean, it had a strong fan base. People really ultimately just wanted a new game. I don't think they really wanted a re-release of this. The World Ends With You, the first one, the final remix. This was actually one of the first Nintendo Switch games to have released. I believe it dropped in 2018, I think, January, February. Might be wrong about that. Either way, this dropped, and what's interesting about the physical release, that's why I think it's gonna make it a really rare Switch game, is the fact that Square didn't actually publish this. If you look on the side, Nintendo, for whatever reason, decided to publish this game. I don't know why. It's very weird. Eventually, once we end the cycle of Nintendo Switch games, collectors are going to want a first-party set. And you can't own a first-party set without all the published Nintendo games. And World Ends With You is one that is a published Nintendo game. This is one that has gone up just a little bit. I think it's about a $60 game, which is more than what it retailed for. It retailed for $50 when it came out for the Nintendo Switch. So if you're looking at this one, this is going to be a more expensive one to grab, but I think it's definitely going to be worth it, especially if you're someone like me who wants to have all the first-party Nintendo Switch games out there. And this is one that I had to get for my personal collection. I think all the first-party games are, at least some of the weird ones that got physical releases, are ones to really look out for. I'm also surprised that this got a physical in general, because, you know, we said it earlier, Square is really weird about their releases. I don't think this game sold well either, because when it came out, I couldn't find it. When that happens with a Nintendo game, it indicates the sell numbers typically, and the sequel that came out of it did not sell well. Coming in number 3 is Borderlands 3. Now this one I already know as fact that it did not get many physical copies, and the one reason why I will tell you it didn't is due to the fact that what happened on the back of the cover. I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys this. If you notice anything weird about this game, it says that it takes 62 gigabytes on the cover. That was not the case at all. I think it's like a 30 gigabyte game or something like that. Anyways, when this news came out, when the physical releases dropped, everyone was so upset about it. And I did see people cancel their pre-orders. And they addressed it online. 2K was like, or Gearbox, whoever did it, was basically like, hey, this is an error, don't listen to the back of the cover. And that's all that they said about the cover art of Borderlands 3. What's interesting is they've never released a different version of Borderlands 3 updating the back of the cover, which tells me they don't want to put money into that. And typically, if a company doesn't want to put money into something that's just dropping, indicates to me that they did not make many copies of this and don't really care about how the physical copy does. This has come very late into the Nintendo Switch cycle, but Borderlands 3 is also considered to be one of the best Switch ports out there. And I think there is going to be an interest of people buying third-party games for the Switch later down to when the Switch is pretty much over. I think people are going to want this in their collection, not to mention every Borderlands game is on the Switch physically, and you can't have it without Borderlands 3. It also took me about 3 weeks to get my pre-ordered copy because my GameStop did not get this in, and they weren't able to order any more copies of this. The manager actually had to travel almost an hour to pick up this game for me to have my pre-order fulfilled, which says a lot if you're traveling over an hour to a GameStop to get the game. I also don't see the game at a lot of places. So coming in number 2 is probably the most weirdest thing that Nintendo has done. I'm glad that they did it, but it was probably the biggest shock to a lot of people. And that was Cadence of Hyrule. I'll never forget when this game was revealed at the Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase in 2020. I think it was actually in July, but this was the last game reveal. And what was crazy was Nintendo was trusting an indie developer to use one of, if not their biggest franchise, or probably second biggest franchise, Zelda, into a crossover game with their indie game character. This was a very obscure game. Everyone was happy when it dropped. It's a really good game. And then 4 months later, they announced that they were making a physical copy of Cadence of Hyrule, which was interesting. Very interesting due to the fact that it's also, again, indie developer using a Nintendo IP. It was a new thing for everyone. Very shocking that this had happened. I think you can still get this one for relatively cheap because I see it every now and then at a store. But the reason why I think this is going to be on people's radar, at least needs to be on people's radar, it's an obscure game that got a physical release that really is a digital game in terms of what we see nowadays get physical releases. It's very rare that a digital only game would get a physical copy. And why you should get this is, once again, Nintendo is the ones that published this release. This is going to be one to look out for due to the fact that Nintendo published it. People are going to want to have all the first party Nintendo games. Trust me, we're seeing it with the Wii U and we're seeing it with the 3DS. Those games, first party games, are really starting to spike up. It's going to happen with the Switch. Once we get into that next Nintendo console and the Switch is fully done, might take 5 years from now, but these first party Switch games are going to go up. And then number 1 is one that I'm really surprised is out of print considering how popular this game series is. But I guess as they're trying to adjust towards the sequel that's coming out, they want to be done with the original. That game being Hades. Hades is a phenomenal game. Hades is one of the best rogue games that I've ever played. Hades is also just a beautiful game. Its art style, its voice acting, everything about this game is amazing. And to see that this game is actually officially out of print surprises me. Hades is a game that you definitely need to get, and if you can get it physically, it's gonna be great. I know that when I bought the physical copy, it was like a $25, $30 game. I think it's still, as of right now, because a lot of people aren't picking up on the fact that it went out of print, you can still get this for about 30, 40 bucks. Definitely pick this up because it's such a good game, trust me. And as we adjust towards Hades 2, once Hades 2 officially comes out, I know they got their little beta thing going on, but once the official version comes out where it goes out of beta, Hades is gonna skyrocket. And I think originally the physical copy was only on the Switch, and then they later transitioned into the PlayStation, Xbox, PlayStation 5, all of that. Pick up Hades while you still can because it's a phenomenal game and people are going to want to own this game due to the fact that it is such a great game and highly praised and got so many awards. Still so surprised that that is a game that's out of print because I know people still play Hades to this day. Guys, these are the 10 Switch games that I had selected for the part 5 of Rare Switch Games video. I want to know, do you guys agree? Do you guys own some of these already? What games do you guys think is going to end up being rare that we haven't talked about in the series? I love seeing your guys' speculating on what's going to be rare in the comments because a lot of the times what you guys have posted in my comments ends up, if it hasn't already, ends up later happening. So I love hearing from you guys what you think is going to be. Let me know what you guys think of my list. Make sure to backslash that subscribe button, like the video, check out the Twitter, check out the Discord, check out the Instagram, check out everything that's in the description below. And please, I hope I'm not inviting myself into a lot of DMs, emails, comments of part 6 because I'm giving you guys part 5. I didn't have to give you guys part 5. I'm doing it as a gift. You know, it's about to be my birthday, and my gift to you guys, even though it's my birthday, is giving you guys part 5, the thing that y'all have been asking for. Actually, really, you guys didn't really ask for it that much. So maybe if you guys will not annoy me, maybe you'll get part 6 later this year. It might be a bit till you get another part of the series, is what I'm trying to tell you, whether you message me or not. Either way, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.